Most people are probably pretty familiar with the story of Robin Hood, or at very least one of its numerous adaptations. A guy who's good at archery goes around with his merry band, steals from the rich and gives to the poor. Have you ever wondered how the story would have gone if they'd taken things a step further and slain all the nobles who were so oppressing the peasantry instead of just robbing them? Well, that's the premise of the story I'll be reviewing today. Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce Akame ga Kill, the story of Night Raid, a band of assassins whose very name strikes fear into the heart of corrupt nobles far and wide. Akame ga Kill follows Tatsumi, a young man from the country who sets off to the capital along with two friends seeking to make money to restore his destitute village. After getting split up from his friends, arriving at the capital, getting swindled out of all his money, getting taken in by apparently kind nobles, finding out that said nobles were actually sadists who'd captured and tortured his friends to death, and spilling the guts of one of said nobles on his sword, Tatsumi is taken in by the revolutionary band of assassins, Night Raid. Apparently after watching him disembowel an unarmed, though admittedly evil little girl, they decided that he had the makings of an assassin. The rest of the story pretty much follows Tatsumi and the rest of Night Raid on their various assassination missions with the end goal of overthrowing the evil prime minister who's at the heart of all the corruption within the kingdom. The whole thing is set in a medievalish fantasy world, which has plenty of monsters, magic, swords, sorceries, and high-impact sniper rifles, because why not? Anyways, there's nothing to the rules of this world of particular note other than what's called Tegu, or Imperial Arms, which are essentially ancient super weapons. These all have different abilities that can be anything from a sword that guarantees death upon the first cut, to a third eye, which allows you to read your opponent's mind, to a freaking demonic dog, which actually is a pretty cute disguise. There's one guarantee with these Tegu. If a fight starts between two wielders, someone's as good as dead. Our protagonist Tatsumi is pretty much the generic nice guy protagonist that you see in dozens of other shonen manga, with one very important exception. He's actually willing to deal ruthlessly with enemies and slaughter them if necessary. This, along with a pleasant lack of moralizing speeches, makes me like him infinitely more than most of the characters that fall into the shonen nice hero trope. The rest of the protagonists and other members of Night Raid are also fairly likable, and most have some reasonably well-developed backstories. Nothing too notable about them, but I would like to give the author major props for having an openly gay character who's also pretty badass. Not something you generally see in manga unless the character has A, been made to look ridiculous, or B, was created for fan service for the female readers. Plus 10 points for gender diversity in this story. Anyways, I actually have to say that the villains of this story are much more of an interesting bag. They seem to be split between the ones that are evil because they just like the whole rape, murder, and drowning little puppies gig, and the other ones who actually get real backstories, real motives, and sympathetic or heck even sometimes likable personalities. Upshot of this is we get some villains that we want to see burn in hellfire, while we also have some that we hope will eventually see the light. Akame ga Kill has no qualms killing off main characters, and it benefits greatly from this. When, in every fight there's a chance that a protagonist or two will kick the bucket, it creates much more tension than if you're pretty sure that all the good guys have equipped plot armor that grants immunity to death. Also, because the author keeps the number of protagonists fairly limited, all the deaths do feel incredibly impactful. The fight scenes are another real strength of this story. They're well illustrated and well paced too. They never got to the point of either being irritatingly long or trollously short, and they remain intense throughout. Lastly, I feel I should give some mention to the companionship between the members of Night Raid. There's a great character dynamic between all of them, and the relations just feel right. There's no cheesy speeches about the importance of friendship or teamwork, and while some characters occasionally fall into generic roles like comic relief, they are not defined by that role. It's nice to see a real sense of camaraderie without getting beaten over the head with it. One of the most important parts of any story, and in particular high fantasy stories, is the creation of an interesting world that can draw readers away from reality. Sadly, in this sense, Akame ga Kill fails miserably. Readers are given almost no information about the world, its geography, culture, or history, and this makes the story feel just a bit empty. Even just including a proper map of this world would have helped hugely so the readers can piece together what's happening where. Likewise, a more detailed description of politics or history of the Empire would have gone a long way to giving everything some context to what's happening. The plot of Akame ga Kill also feels somewhat lacking. The assassination missions are great, but that's all, and there's a little sense of connection between them, or a sense that things are moving forwards. Things do get slightly better as the story goes on, but it still tends to lack much going on outside of the fighting. Lastly, some of you have probably already figured this out, but this story is incredibly violent, gory, and sometimes downright disturbing. When I talk about disturbing, I don't just mean head severed from body disturbing, I mean rape, torture, and cannibalism disturbing. If you have a weak stomach, you may not want to read this. I generally think I'm pretty desensitized to this type of thing thanks to prolonged exposure to the internet, but honestly, there are a number of scenes in this series that made me just feel distinctly queasy. This probably won't be an issue for everyone, and honestly some people will probably view this as a good thing. I'm just mentioning it as a weakness because I'm pretty sure this factor will turn some people completely off the story. As a story about assassins, Akame ga Kill does all the most important things. It lets us know why we want the targets dead, why we should be cheering for the assassins, and gives us some pretty cool action scenes. It is a shame though that the story didn't have a broader scope and let us know more about the world. For scores, I give Akame ga Kill a 5 out of 10 for plot, 8 out of 10 for characters, 6 out of 10 for quality of writing, and 7 out of 10 for my own personal enjoyment, giving Akame ga Kill an overall score of 6.5 out of 10. If you're looking for something similar to read, I would recommend Future Diaries, a sci-fi thriller which has all the same things that made Akame ga Kill disturbing at times, with the added bonus of the poster child for all Yanderes. And that brings me to the end of my review. Thanks for listening. Cheers! Okay, for anyone who's still listening, for whatever reason, this is a quick rant about one of the chapters in the story that really bugged me. Sensitive people should leave now. Seriously. Okay, so generally when you have what I'd call a 0.5 chapter, it's a side story that's unrelated to what's currently going on. Often there used to be funny or showed some development of a given character. Rarely it'll be because the author wanted to try their hand at writing hentai. See Sword Art Online chapter 16.5. Anyways, what was done in chapter 23.5 of Akame ga Kill pisses me the hell off a hell of a lot more than any of the other 0.5 chapters I've seen. And just to be clear, the contents of this chapter are in no way reflective of the rest of the story. Essentially, the premise of this chapter is as follows. 3 young girls are taken from their village, sold into slavery. They're then sold to a pimp who gives them to various men to rape, torture, and they're then given to a dog and heat. There's no graphic image of this, but still, what the fuck? Why the hell would you show me this? Anyways, the child rapists and the pimp and get slaughtered by night raid in short order. This leaves me with the question, what the hell was the point of this side story? Was the author trying to make the readers all feel like puking? Because I guess if that was his goal, then sure, it worked. I don't know. Maybe the author was trying to give a social commentary on how terrible child slavery and exploitation is, but I kind of doubt it. Long and short of this rant, skip chapter 23.5. You'll be happier not reading it. Rant done. Thank you.